Well, thank you for all coming today. I certainly appreciate it. My name is Len Heritage, and I'm on the faculty at Tacoma Community College and at the University of Washington, Tacoma. We have a group of 4 individuals today who are going to be sharing with you a little bit about how they ended up being accountants and the road that they took. I think you'll find out that road is not a straight line between 2 points. It goes a variety of ways, but I think all of these 4 individuals can now say they are accountants. And possibly you are thinking of taking that or a similar road. And hopefully today you will gain some perspective how others have done that. Let me introduce the 4 individuals who are with us today. We have Alicia Bosbafani. Alicia is currently an internal auditor with True Blue. That is an organization that is headquartered in Tacoma, Washington. Alicia is an alumni of the University of Washington, Tacoma, with a concentration in accounting. She's currently pursuing her CPA, as are a number of our participants today. She has a background in the restaurant and hospitality management, and a number of years ago decided to return to school to become a better restaurateur. However, somewhere along the line, she decided to go into accounting. She took some accounting classes at Tacoma Community College and then on to the University of Washington, Tacoma, earning her Bachelor of Arts in Business Administration, again, with a concentration in accounting. She firmly believes that one can accomplish anything through hard work and determination. She's passionate about lifelong learning, as I can say that almost all of our participants today would agree with that. She lives in Tacoma with her husband and daughter. She is an avid reader, an amateur chef, and a feline enthusiast. You will also find that others of our participants today also have an affinity for the feline race. Our next participant is Cheryl Collins, who has a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology from the University of Washington, Seattle. Cheryl has quite a background, some in accounting and some other areas. She has a teaching certificate from the University of Washington, Tacoma, and an Associate's Arts in Accounting from Tacoma Community College. She has worked at a wide variety, and I stress wide variety, of areas over her career. We were just talking before we went live, and she at one time was an international telephone operator for AT&T. It's very hard to find somebody that can say that. She's been a service representative for Social Security and a training coordinator for World Vision. I don't know if you know anything about World Vision, but their headquarters are in Federal Way. After all of that, she took some time away from the employment field to raise her 2 daughters for a number of years, about 12 years. And then decided to re-enter the employment market and decided that possibly taking some accounting classes would help that employability. She went on to get a degree at Tacoma Community College in the accounting field in our Associates in Arts degree. After graduating, she went and worked at Tacoma Public Schools, not as a teacher, but in the internal audit area. And actually both she and another one of our participants worked there at the same time. She then transitioned and worked in public accounting for a while, helping smaller businesses in setting up accounting as well as computerized systems and making sure that their accounting tasks were done in a timely manner. She is now back at Tacoma Public Schools as a budget technician, helping and managing expenses and grant accounting. So Cheryl, thank you for being with us today. Our third participant is Tiffany Moja I think. And Tiffany is an alumni of UW-T master's program in accounting. She is currently working for DaVita within their joint venture department. Her background is that of a pastry chef, but then she saw a need to maybe transition to something else as her first child was growing up. She attended Tacoma Community College, as all of our participants have today. And then from TCC, she got her basic accounting knowledge and probably economics, and then went to UW-Tacoma and obtained her master's degree there. When she is not working or studying, because she also is pursuing a CPA, she spends time with her husband, 2 children, and a cat. Again, some common element in accounting, I guess. She likes to cook, she likes to read, and of course, right now she's reading a lot of CPA review textbooks, as Alicia is as well, as a matter of fact. Our last party is Jackie Youngblood, and Jackie is a graduate of Tacoma Community College in their arts and science area with a concentration in accounting in their applied science degree program. She is currently working on a Bachelor of Science in Accounting. She too works or has worked at Tacoma Public Schools. She's now, right now, in Tacoma Public Schools working as a grants compliance technician, ensuring proper reporting, compliance, quality control, and data management. And again, one of the things in accounting, which is a little different for public schools other than, say, a business, is that you have to control what money comes in and then what goes out. A lot of times is reserved to that. And both Cheryl and Jackie work in that area. Jackie also worked in public accounting, again, as a consultant staff member, providing a full range of accounting services. And one of the things she talks about here is in the business tax return area. So my experience is smaller businesses need somebody to hold their hand in that area. And Jackie and Cheryl are your people to hold your hands. Jackie also started out her accounting career at Tacoma Public Schools in internal audit. And these are some things that she referred to, is evaluating controls, testing current processes, providing recommendations. And one of the, probably the most important here is assessing areas of risk. The more risk, the more likelihood Jackie or Cheryl would be giving you a call and talking to you. So I have a couple questions, and the way that we're going to do this today is I will throw the question out, and I'm going to ask the first question if Alicia would start the answer to that, and then if the other 3 participants would like to join in, please do so. And then the next question, possibly Tiffany could start and kind of rotate around and so on. Okay? Now, we're assuming that many of our participants here today are thinking of going into accounting and kind of like to know what the road to that full-time job would be at some point in time in accounting. And these four ladies definitely can help us out there and help you out there. So the first question I have is, Alicia and others, what sparked your interest in accounting and how did you go about learning about the field?
Yeah, so for me, I was a restaurant manager of a small business in Tacoma. And so I kind of oversaw everything, including the bookkeeping and the payroll and all of that stuff. So I was really out of my depth and didn't know exactly what I was supposed to be doing. And so I hired a consultant to come in and help me. And through that, I really found that I was so curious about, I needed to know more of this. I would ask her questions and she would give the very generic accounting response like, well, it depends. And that didn't make a lot of sense to me because I didn't understand accounting. And so as I continued my journey through management, I really wanted to know more. And I thought that if I went back to school and I got a business degree in accounting, it would make me a better restaurant manager, a better business owner. I would just really be able to understand more about business in general if I could speak that language of accounting. And so that was kind of what really sparked my interest in that. And then my journey to get there was I went to the UW advising office first and asked, how do I get into this school? What are the things that I need to do? I had gone to school after I graduated high school, but I never finished college. So I was a philosophy major, very different from accounting. And I knew that one day I wanted to go back and get a bachelor's, but definitely I didn't want to write 20-page papers anymore. So I thought accounting would be a less paper-free option. And UW told me that a really good route for me to take would be to take my business prereqs at TCC. Basic accounting, micro and macroeconomics, business law. And that seemed way more doable to me than trying to apply to college while I have a family and a job and a house. And I was like, I have to write essays and take writing exams. That all seemed really overwhelming, but it was much easier to walk into TCC and sign up for a class. And so that's what I did. I met with an advisor at TCC who really said, if this is the journey you want to take, you need to start this accounting series that starts next week. And that I was very shocked because I thought I was going to walk in and gather a whole bunch of information and go home and mull it over and talk to my husband. And I don't know, still maybe go back to school. But he was very sure that this is what I needed to do. So I kind of got talked into signing up for a class on the spot. And that is how I ended up here. But I'm very grateful for that push because I don't know if I would have done it otherwise.
Nothing like jumping right in, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, wait, you mean today? Like right now?
I'm curious, when people ask you a question now about accounting, do you say it depends?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. It depends.
Good. Tiffany, Cheryl, Jackie, any response to that same question? What sparked your interest in accounting and how did you go about learning about the field?
Well, I originally was going to go back to school and be a librarian. And so on my way into TCC advising, because TCC is just on the road from where I live. So I thought, hey, this is nearby. Let's go back to school. My husband says, you really should look at accounting. So I was like, all right, whatever. So I walked into the TCC advising office and I said, okay, what do you have for accounting? Signed up, did whatever I needed to do. But of course I had some prereqs I needed to get through, namely some math classes. So I remember being in a math class with one of my peers. She says, you have to take accounting 101. I said, why would I do that? I'm just going to jump in. And she said, just do it. So I took Accounting 101, which was, I think, one of the best decisions because I didn't know anything about accounting. And I didn't even know if I was going to like it. So going in and taking that Accounting 101 class and seeing the different aspects, and the OCD person in me kind of likes how you have to balance everything out. Debits have to equal credits, assets equals liabilities plus equity. I liked that balancing act. And so that really sparked my my interest to kind of want to go further to see what else can I do with this. And my husband was right. So that was it was he gave great advice. But yeah, and like as I'm still learning now on the job, different aspects to different pieces of accounting, and it's interesting and it's fun, and I feel like this is a field that's while your basics are still there, it's constantly being redeveloped and learning, and tax laws are always changing, so you're always kept on your toes. So I guess that's what kind of drew me, is just the constant learning and the balancing act. Yeah.
Good. Cheryl and Jackie, would either of you like to contribute how you ended up in accounting? How did you what sparked your interest, and how did you go about getting in or learning about the field?
I would say, kind of like the others mentioned, I backed into it a little bit. I would love to say accounting was my lifelong dream, but I hadn't really thought too much about it. It seemed a little mathy for me, and I wasn't sure if math was my thing. But I, had been a stay-at-home mom for a number of years, and I knew I needed to make a career change, or I wanted to be intentional about what I would go into. And I just looked through the TCC online catalog and what do they have? And I knew I already had a bachelor's degree, and I knew I didn't want to go to school for 4 more years or spend thousands and thousands of dollars. That felt very like too much. And so I looked at the TCC catalog, and I saw accounting, and I thought, okay, let me try that. Let me see if I like it. And so I took Accounting 101, just one class that first quarter, just to see, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. It was the instructors were wonderful. The course itself fit with me really well. And after that, I took a full load until I finished, and I have never looked back. I'm very glad that I did that.
Jackie, how about yourself?
A very similar story. I already had an associate's degree, but I wanted something, I was a stay-at-home mom as well. And I went through the TCC catalog, and I was more looking for a technical degree at that time. I just wanted something that I could work part-time, kind of have my own schedule, still be able to be that volunteer mom. And Accounting 101, it was there. And I just found, I like detail, I like Excel spreadsheets, and I was just like, oh, I like this, and it just kind of took off from there. And since I already had an associate's degree, I was like, oh, maybe I do want to transfer. So then I also did the business program as well. So I did the dual, which I was really glad that I did both the technical degree and the business, because there was some extra classes offered, like software programming and more basic income tax classes and stuff offered through TCC that helped what I did in the future at the accounting firm, and knowing a little bit more of the basics. So still a continual journey, and that's why accounting's so fun. It's so diverse. I've gone from the private sector now back to governmental accounting, and so very different, very unique, and I don't think I can ever know it all.
Well, I can guarantee you, none of us in accounting will ever know it all. But, I find it very interesting that I think of all of our panelists, you took an accounting class or found somebody to talk to you about accounting, and it sparked your interest, and you knew that that's where you belonged or what you wanted to do. In my particular case, my father was a CPA, and I was an 18-year-old rebellious individual, and there was no way I was going to be an accountant, and there was no way I was going to take an accounting course because I did not want to be like my dad. But I think I was the end of my freshman year, and I was trying to find a class that was in the morning so I could go to the lake in the afternoon. And so I took an accounting class, and like our panelists, it seemed to resonate with me. Like, this makes sense. And so if you're thinking of going into accounting and you have found you've taken an accounting class possibly, and it makes sense, there may be a career there for you. Well, Tiffany, I've got a question here. What do you like about accounting? I think you kind of already alluded to some of this, but if you can maybe kind of follow up on that, and then maybe the other three can follow up behind you.
I kind of like how if you're a very organized, kind of nitpicky person, it's really great. You know, the attention to detail, you know, the balancing act. I just really like, you know, just all of the I don't know what to say. Just everything's balanced. Everything's always going to be balanced, or always should be balanced, and I really like that.
Yeah.
I also really like how it's always evolving. I mean, like I said earlier, everything's going to be, for the most part, the basics stay the same, but there's always going to be new accounts and new laws and changes to the codification that are going to throw a wrench in everything. But yeah, I love it. You're always learning. It's great.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll chime in. I actually work in audit in my current position. I'm an internal auditor, and I am a very naturally curious person. And so auditing is a really great career for me because I love to ask questions and figure out processes and get to the bottom of things. And so I think that curiosity is what I love most about it, that I get to exercise that, and also problem solving skills and attention to detail. But mostly I just like to ask people questions. My husband, I work from home most of the times, like most of us do now. And oftentimes he will say, why don't you just go back over there and ask some more questions, okay? Just go ask the people at work.
That's great. That's great. Jackie and Cheryl.
Very similar situation. I've been blessed to have the opportunity to do a lot of different types of accounting in different areas. Internal audit, right now my position's unique. I do compliance with grants here in the district, but it also on the budget side where I'm doing like financial monitoring. So I get a little bit of both worlds in that. And then at our local accounting firm, you know, between the bookkeeping and yes, business tax returns, and it's not just the federal tax returns, but you got state returns, you got local returns, you got payroll returns. So it's really neat, like, and I like to help. I think that was the thing that I like about accounting is a lot of people are scared of it and they just need some assistance. It's really great, especially during this pandemic time, that we got to help a lot of businesses stay afloat, help them with a lot of potential loans and grants, and helping them through processes that they might not be able to stay in business. So.
Yeah. Cheryl?
I was just going to kind of bounce off what Jackie said. I think accounting for me is, it kind of satisfies both the left brain and right brain. You get the kind of analytical side, the technical skills, the balancing. I love that too. And then you get also to work with some really great people and really feel like you're making a difference in people's, you know, businesses or organization or whatever it is wherever you're involved. I like both.
Great. Next couple of questions kind of deal with what you learned in school, or what you think was beneficial when you got out in your first job. So maybe Jackie, you can kind of field this one to begin with, if possible. How did your business accounting education help you at your first accounting position? And what was your most beneficial accounting course in school, and possibly why? So kind of a two-part question. What business accounting education helped you in your first, kind of, when I first got on the job, I said, oh, I knew this from school. And then what was the most beneficial particular course you might have taken?
Yeah, I think that is a great question. The education just gives you the fundamentals and the knowledge base. Otherwise, like Alicia was saying, you're just not going to know and understand. Banking terms are different than accounting terms. Like if you look at a bank statement, a debit and a credit is not the same in the accounting world. Trying to explain that to business owners sometimes is a fun challenge. But as far as classes, it's the basic introductory accounting classes, because everything builds upon that class. So if you don't have a concrete understanding of that first initial class, it makes it very hard to move forward from there.
Anyone else like to add to that?
I think I'll add to that. I agree, Accounting 101, because you use that, so many times when I was working with business owners and trying, a lot of business owners don't want to spend hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars on an accountant. So they want you to teach them how to do their own bookkeeping, their own accounting, and, using what we learned in Accounting 101, it's right from there that, trying to teach people about, balancing and debits and credits and how it all works and their chart of accounts. And then I would add to that QuickBooks. That was just a real practical class, but we use that, well, not currently, but we did use that every single day, and that was a great skill to have.
I would definitely say that I was basic accounting, the series, absolutely. You need the fundamentals because literally everything else builds on that. And the other class that I took that I find super important is technical writing. So when you're writing papers for school, typically you have to meet like a page minimum, right? And so you want all this flowery language and you want it to be drawn out so you can meet that mark. But in a lot of the work paper writing that I do, you want there to be as little words as possible, but you still need to convey your point. And so that actually I find to be more difficult, is paring it down and being really concise. And I don't think that that's a skill that's really taught enough. And I would say that in the auditing field, I think a lot of people are surprised at how much writing you actually do. But there is a lot of writing involved in the work paper documentation. So that class was also really important. And one of the other big takeaways that I had from my bachelor's degree journey at UW was the amount of opportunities I had to interact with the business community. And I think that was really vital in me figuring out where I wanted to be in that community. It gave me exposure to a lot of different industries, even outside of accounting. And it gave me time to talk to those people. And that's how I ended up with my internship, which then in turn turned into my full-time position. But there was a lot of opportunities for that at UW.
Tiffany, anything you'd like to add?
I'll agree with everyone. Accounting 101 to the 200 series are fantastic. I think everybody's already said it, but you build on everything. And I remember doing my first journal entry and being like, oh my God, this is what they've been teaching us the whole time. It was awesome. It was like revolutionary. It's like, I can't believe this is how it happens. So it was really cool. One class that I would say is do an Excel class. Well, I use Excel every single day, and multiple Excel sheets and macro enabled Excel. I mean, X, Y, and Z, anything can be done, will be done with Excel. So if you can learn how to master that, oh man, it's a game changer. I say do that one.
Tiffany, did you take an Excel class in college?
I did. I had to think. I was a tutor in the business center
Okay.
while I was at TCC, and so I helped a lot of students with their Excel programs. But it took me a moment to remember if I had actually taken it or I've just kind of taken it through the other students. But I did take one. Yeah, I took the Excel 1 and 2 series, and
Okay.
they were
Good. I find a fair number of students are self-taught when it comes to Excel. But it's a lot more expeditious if you take a class in it, I think. And then once you get that foundation, then you can kind of experiment and learn on your own. Yeah. The next question I have here, and I'll throw it out, maybe Tiffany or Cheryl wants to start with this. It basically deals with technical knowledge in accounting, but also what soft skills do you think are just as important as those technical skills? You know, in school, as an instructor, we go down, okay, as indicator, debits equal credits, and this on this financial statement, you learn this or whatever. But when you get out into the job, there are other skills that are pretty important, I think. What soft skills do you think add to your job satisfaction and the ability to get that job done? Anyone?
Are I muted?
No.
Oh.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay, so I was just going to say to that, you have a stereotype that you see on TV, a lot of the accountants sitting in the corner alone with their adding machine and, never looking up from their laptop the whole day. And what I found in the real world is really it's all about your collaborating, your working together with people on projects, and you have to be able to do those things if you want to be successful in most workplaces. If you want to work alone and not, you could probably find a job like that, but I think they're probably few and far between. I think most of the time employers want somebody who can work as part of a team. And also, I think when we were in the public accounting sphere, I think having empathy toward people who really didn't know anything about accounting, to be able to understand what their goals were and how to work and help them achieve greater success in their business. So I think all those things are important if you want to be successful.
Yeah, I'll go. I completely agree. A lot of employers, like we've got a lot of software and programs that can do, what they considered the bean counter type work. We've got Excel, we've got accounting softwares that, can do a lot of the work for us. Now we're doing more analytical and putting those numbers into words, really. And so that's building those relationships to get other people to understand what those numbers mean. And I find in even the governmental side and when we worked at the public accounting firm, you have to do a lot of customer service, like you have to look at everyone as your customer, and you're building those relationships with their customers and helping them understand the meaning behind those numbers.
Alicia, how about yourself? Coming from the hospitality environment, working with people, what in accounting, we have the technical side, but then we have other skills that you need to bring to the job. What do you think in that area?
Well, I definitely think that customer service is really important. In internal audit, everybody else in my company is my customer. And so being able to talk to people is super important. And I would say that communication in general, my company, True Blue, is a global company. And so I have multiple team members in India or the UK or Poland. And so being able to communicate clearly and concisely, and also have empathy and that understanding that we don't come from the same culture, but trying to work on things together is very important. Another thing I would say is confidence. You know, like you might be starting out your journey, but knowing your value and that you bring a unique perspective to the table, I think is a really important skill. And not being afraid to ask questions. You might be new in your career, but everybody was there once. And so I think speaking up and having that confidence in yourself is a really important skill. And kind of going hand in hand with that, I would also say problem solving. Being willing to try and tackle a problem on your own. Obviously, don't get too bogged down where you're totally lost and you're not going to ask for help, but being solutions oriented and trying to figure out a solution to the problem instead of just dwelling on that problem itself.
Which I have a follow-up question. You talk about the fact that you communicate with people all over the world. In what form does that communication take place? Is that email? How is it, like Zoom, or what do you find the medium to be?
Typically, we're on a Zoom-like forum. We use Microsoft Teams within my company, and so it's a lot of virtual calls. But it can also be emails or like instant message kind of conversations. But just making sure that you're communicating, especially when you're not in the office with people all the time. You want to make sure that everyone's on the same page for a project or a task that needs to be done. And so that communication can look a lot of different ways, but just making sure that, you know, you are communicating and that you're putting in an effort is super important.
Now, I know when I get a variety of emails in my office, sometimes I'm not sure exactly what the individual is trying to say. Do you find that, and I throw this out to the entire group, do you find that to be an issue? And if so, it kind of goes back to a comment made earlier about technical writing. How are people's skill of communicating via email?
I think that sometimes they could be better. If you just get an email with a giant paragraph of text, sometimes it's very convoluted and it's not clear. So using bullet points, or, you know, keeping it really short and sweet, spacing, all of those kind of technical writing skills can be really important. But also, if you get an email like this and you don't understand what they're asking, just saying, hey, can you clarify for me? Just making sure that you know exactly what the expectation is, what's being asked of you.
Yeah, I know for myself, when I get something and it says, okay, we'll do that Thursday. Well, I don't know what Thursday we're talking about. Are we talking about next Thursday? And next Thursday may not be the next Thursday when I read that email. So, I mean, I try to be very specific, putting in dates and, you know, deadlines. And so I have a little bit better understanding or belief that we are, in fact, communicating on the same line. So have any of you others found issues in that area?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I completely agree. It's funny you say like the detail you put into your email. I think that's our personalities as accountants. Because, you know, working with a diversity type of groups or people, it varies on the type of emails you'll get. And you have to, I mean, we're very bulleted, get to the point, but some people read that wrong as well. So it depends on your audience, on who you're writing to, because sometimes you have to add more phrases that could be more empathetic to who you're communicating with, or some people don't like all the detail. They just want something very sweet and brief. So I think it also depends on your audience.
Okay. Tiffany, do you have anything to add there?
I think Alicia and Jackie and Cheryl have pretty much said everything I would ever say on this
Okay,
topic.
that's great. Great.
Hey, Len, can I jump in here? We have a couple questions from our attendees. So the first one's informational. So either I can take it or maybe Karen can help me. But we have attendee that's expected to graduate with their AA in spring of 2022. If they transfer into UW for a bachelor's degree, they're just curious about the curriculum. What would they study further? And I can start out. I know that with a bachelor's degree, our core classes, you're going to take business classes in all areas, but specifically in accounting, you would study the intermediate core, which would be 3 of your classes. That would be a year-long class in 3 parts. So in your AA degree, you study financial accounting. Then you go up a notch to intermediate accounting in the bachelor's. And then you'll also study some individual courses. You'll have individual income tax. You'll have intro to auditing. You'll have cost accounting, which is a higher level. I knew my dog would have to go off when I unmuted, but anyway, you'll have cost accounting, which is you take managerial accounting at the 200 level in your AA degree. Typically, we'll take you up a notch to 300 level cost accounting. And there's probably one I forgot. Karen, do you have a list? There's maybe 1 or 2
I
classes
was
that I
looking to
forgot.
see if I could find the list, because you'll also take some general classes. You'll take a finance class and a marketing class, and so there's other ones too. And do you know that I am not finding the list right now, but I'll tell you what, if you email me, I'll put my email in the chat. I will send you all of that information. So there is my email. In fact, if you have any questions at all about UW Tacoma or coming to UW Tacoma or what that might mean for you, you can email me and I will either be able to answer that question or I will know who will answer that for you.
Thank you, Karen. And the second question is a great one for our panelists to chime in on. We want to know, for those pursuing the CPA, what's driving you to get that certification and what additional career benefits do you anticipate from becoming a CPA?
Yeah, that's a great question.
That is a good one.
Open it up to the panelists.
I personally wanted to get a CPA. I feel like it's the culmination of the accounting degree. For me, I feel like there would be something left undone if I didn't get it. But it is a lot of work. My company specifically is very supportive of that work. They really push for professional development. They offer financial assistance to buy the study materials and take the exams, which was really important for me when I was looking for a job because it can be quite pricey. And they also offer bonuses after you pass. And it's not necessarily a barrier to a promotion, like to a senior level, but I think that it would probably hinder me anywhere beyond that. If I wanted to be a manager or a director or a vice president in my field in accounting or auditing, it would definitely be a requirement.
Tiffany, you're preparing for the CPA. What do you have to add there as far as why you decided to get to CPA, and are there benefits that you perceive of obtaining that?
In my field where I'm at, I don't necessarily need one. I'm very fortunate with the company I also work for. They do offer the financial assistance for both the study materials and for some of the testing, which is fantastic. And they're very supportive again, and they're support professional development. And even once you get your CPA, they'll sometimes help you pay for continuing education credits, which is really great. I wanted to get it to have a little bit more career flexibility. Not only we'll have a easier time, I guess I should say, moving up into management positions, but also if I decided to leave the company and work for a different one, or in a different city, it's kind of like my golden ticket to be like, here, I got one, I know what I'm doing, kind of thing. I mean, not to say that if you don't have a CPA, everyone knows what they're doing. Not to say you don't know what you're doing, but it was more like my badge saying for me,
Yeah.
I wanted to have that flexibility. But
Any other comments on that?
I do know if you want to go into like an accounting firm, they will require it because you need those license to sign certain forms or, and why would you go to an accounting firm and no one's a CPA?
Sure.
So, I do know if you're going that accounting route at the local firm we worked at, they like required it within, I think, 3 to 4 years for you to get it. But they would also help and pay and give you time for your study materials. And so.
Yeah, especially if you're in public accounting, there is a ceiling as far as how far you can go without the CPA. And so if you want to move up in the organization of a CPA firm, usually at some point, you're not going to move up if you don't have that. Especially in the large CPA firms, you can move up just so far, but you'll be a manager, but you'll never be a senior manager, and you won't be a partner. So definitely, if you're in public accounting, having the CPA is a must.
can I add something just a little bit?
You certainly can.
So for those of you guys intending on doing the CPA, and if you're going to UW, sometimes CPA systems like Becker will have a representative on campus, and they will actually help pay for your study materials. So if you're thinking that it might be a little too expensive, that's one tip to kind of think about if that's the route that you're wanting to go.
Yeah, Tiffany's correct. On campus, there are several representatives, student representatives of the CPA firms. As indicated, one is Becker. Another one is the name just
Wiley.
slipped. Yeah. And there's a Gary. What's the
Rogers
third one?
CPA.
Rogers. There we go. Yeah. I actually used to work in that industry, and I know the people behind it. Rogers is quite a character, and Becker, Mr. Becker, Newt Becker, is no longer with us, but his firm is still there. So.
Let me jump in again, Len. That was all great. We kind of had a follow-up on the CPA. We had someone ask if UW or TCC offers the extra classes required. And that's kind of a technical question, but if you need those 5th year credits, that's typically a graduate degree or just additional credits, as long as you have your bachelor's level, higher level accounting classes. But that's kind of a different topic, but we offer that at UW-T. We have those graduate classes, but they're not specifically designed as CPA prep classes. Okay, they give you.
Gary, can I add to that?
Yes.
A lot of people, there's something we call a 5th year to become a CPA, to take the exam, and there's this misconception that it has to be in accounting. As Gary indicated, it can be any credits. And so a lot of people have taken a variety of credits to find their way into accounting. I think we have some participants today who, maybe a librarian or whatever, and all of a sudden you found yourself in accounting. Well, they end up with well over the required number to sit for the CPA exam. So those will count for the most part. There are some that may not, but for the most part, all of those credits will in fact count. So look at that before you start to say, well, they're not accounting classes. They don't need to be. Go ahead, Gary. I'm sorry to barge in.
No, that's great. And you can reach out to, any one of us, Karen or I or Len, I'm sure, with follow-up questions. I'll put my email in the chat box too about that's a different topic. I did want to get in. We had a question about what accounting programs do you guys use the most often? Now, I know we've discussed Excel. I think we all agree Excel and a wide knowledge or a deep knowledge of that is very important, but maybe you guys can touch on a few of the other real common programs you use, software type programs in accounting.
Well, I use all Microsoft products pretty much, so the entire suite. In addition to that, Oracle is our ERP. So we operate a lot. Most of the work that we do is out of there. And then for internal audit specifically, we operate with a software program called Wdesk. Most typically, it is a program that external reporting will use to file your SEC report, so your annual and quarterly filings, your 10Ks and your 10Qs, but they also have audit software that makes it really easy to do our documentation. But it operates a lot like Microsoft Word or Excel.
Yeah, we also use Oracle and Excel. Those are our two big ones, but we also have Wdesk. And I'm sure other departments use other programs more, but those are the three that I know that we use.
Yeah, especially now with data analytics, coming into the accounting field, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of different programs taking a look at. Gary, do you want to address that at all, or?
Say that again, Len, about the analytics part.
Yeah, a lot of data analytics are now coming into the field of accounting. And I just wondered if, from the University of Washington Tacoma's perspective, if you wanted to add anything to that.
Sure. We just, I'll give you a quick thumbnail sales pitch, but we just refreshed our curriculum for the graduate program. It's STEM designated now, and we have included a couple specific classes on accounting analytics, and they deal with a lot of these softwares that you guys are mentioning and talking about. We deal with SAP and ERP, and oh geez, Karen can help me out, of course, Excel, and we have the Microsoft visualization and go ahead, Karen, you probably have a list of them there.
Tableau, Idea, we do Rutgers Checkpoint, we do another tax software, I'm not thinking of the name, they do Access, SQL.
It's RIA Checkpoint with Thomson Reuters. We have that through our tax classes, and yeah, Microsoft BI. And
yeah, so we've really built that into all of our classes, and we start in the undergraduate level, introducing you to the technology that you need, and then we build on that when you go into the graduate program. One thing I will say, though, I do want to say there's been a recent study done by the AICPA saying that if you do go and get your accounting classes, if you use that extra year for accounting classes, you are more apt to pass the CPA quicker, and you're more apt to finish the CPA. So while you can use a lot of other classes, there is value in that additional accounting learning. There's just so much to learn in accounting.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that the fifth year is not needed. It is, and especially if you need those credits, definitely take those in accounting if you can. But there is also a time and money issue that a lot of students have. And so if they're close, see what you can do to get in and take the exam. Any other questions?
I would say that all of those software programs that you just mentioned, I see in other departments within my company. So every single one I think is valuable.
Well, and that's not surprising because we did build in those products based on feedback from our partners like TrueBlue. TrueBlue is a great supporter of UWT. And so is DaVita.
No more questions from our attendees, Len. We're getting close to the end here, but you might be able to fit another one in if you'd like from what you got there.
Okay, sure. Accounting has a lot of deadlines. Got to have done. How do you find that that impacts you, and how do you adjust to those deadlines? And were you prepared for that when you got into accounting? Any one of the four can start off with that.
Well,
Is it
in
any?
audit, I would say that the big deadline is filing your annual report, at least for me and my public company. That's the only deadline that really matters. So I would say there's a little bit of flexibility in some deadlines, and some there absolutely is not. And the biggest way to make sure that you can meet those is planning. Planning is the number one most important thing that you can do. If you start with your end goal and you work your way backwards, you break it into little chunks, that is the best way to meet deadlines that I've found. And also leaning on your team, right? You're not just one person, you work in a department and you all have to get there at the same time. So oftentimes I'll pick up extra workload for somebody else, and if I get bogged down, they'll do the same for me. So working together to meet those deadlines is really important too.
I'll jump in there on that. One of the things I was really excited about when I first came back to Tacoma Schools is our manager in a team. We have weekly team meetings, and one of the things she asks in every meeting is, "What do you need help with?" And it's not, does anyone need help? And then you have to kind of raise your hand if you need help. There's an expectation that team members will need help with things, and so we're all working together. If one person falls behind or doesn't meet their, obligation in a certain time frame, then we all look bad. Then we're all kind of failing. So I think it's nice when you can work in an environment where that's expected, where you can rely on each other. And I also think that I've learned to take advantage of technology more and more. I used to have, a paper list that I would cross things off. I had this tablet where I would, now just this last week, I started teaching myself Microsoft To Do. So I can, have those reminders right there and check, there's a very satisfying little bell that sounds when you check something off. And so, yeah.
I do know in public accounting, there's financial consequences if you do not make deadlines. So penalties, interest. So it's imperative that you meet those deadlines during tax season. The accountants are working, it is no lie, 50 to 80 hours a week. And, they'll have a shelf of tax returns, or you'll have checkoff lists. You have, and everybody takes their turn getting through that list.
I've been fortunate in that working in joint ventures. I don't really have super heavy weeks where everything's due all at once. But I do have deadlines every month. We have a big business day, one like business day 5. I have 2 sections that have to be done by certain times. And so it's about kind of pacing yourself and setting a checklist for that. And then throughout the month, I have other deadlines I need to meet. And again, that's about setting small goals for yourself, and not being afraid to reach out for help. And then don't dwell on items. Like sometimes you'll come into a problem and you just kind of hit a roadblock. And instead of sitting there and trying to figure it out, you can either set it aside, come back to it, or reach out for help. And one of the things that with my area is if I make a mistake, we can fix it. And as someone with anxiety, that is like one of the best things you could ever hear is it's okay. We can fix it. Like, oh, I made a wrong journal entry. It's okay. Well, we can reverse it. So that's also, I think, helps me get through the deadlines. If I make a mistake and we're rushing and I'm panicking, it's okay. We can fix it. So, but yeah, I'm still a little old school. I have actually a whiteboard that I use as my checklist. for more of my fluid items. And then I have a spiral notebook where I have my more permanent items. So every month I create packages for our joint venture partners. And so that's my permanent items. I make sure I have everything for the partner on that. But for something like, oh, I need to email somebody, that goes on my whiteboard. But yeah, it's all about making a list and being organized, but what works for you. If it works for you to do on the computer, do it on the computer. If it works for you to write it down, write it down. But I think, everyone said you got to set yourself up for success. So if that means making a list and a time frame, do it. But yeah.
Yeah, Tiffany indicated about making a list. If you're a list maker, you've got a future in accounting. I think every accountant I know makes lists and they get tremendous satisfaction. As Cheryl indicated, it's not a bell going off. You can scratch it off. That feels so good. So again, if you're a list person, this may be the field for you. Well, we are out of time here, and I want to thank our panelists for coming in and sharing their stories with you. And I want to thank all of you that came today. We really appreciate your interest. As Karen and Gary and I will tell you, if you do have questions afterwards, we will make our emails available for you. You can find me at Tacoma Community College as well as the University of Washington, Tacoma. And I know that Karen and Gary are available at UW-T as well. So thank you all today for coming, and thank the panelists as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.